happens with many of our things. The Colonel got kind of sidelined for a while. It's by far the best Power Wheels we've ever built. We figured it was time for it to get a little bit of extra love. I've decided it is time for a spoolie boy. Obviously, I'm gonna go ahead and get it running right this way first because it's never been tuned properly for two reasons. One, we just haven't gotten around to it. It's always been kind of like it'd take a lot of time situation. And also, it currently doesn't have an O2 sensor, so that makes it kind of hard to tune. We have one for it, but I originally had it placed here, right in front of where the muffler was, and it was only like 6 inches from the end of the pipe, so it was getting really bad readings because of the reversion of fresh air going back into the pipe. So I'm gonna plumb that up to one of these headers here so that we can have an O2 sensor. And then the other reason is that this engine doesn't have a cam sensor. Basically, you need a cam sensor to tell you whether the piston is on the intake stroke or the power stroke or the exhaust stroke. The way this is currently running, it's called non-sequential fueling, meaning that it just fires both injectors and both spark plugs every time because it doesn't know which one is doing what. It's very inefficient and really hard to tune. Time to drill a giant hole in the exhaust pipe so I can mount this. O2 sensor, even found a spare bung in the drawer. I'm gonna start with just one O2 sensor and see if we can tune it reasonably well with that. Last little bit of wiring here. I'm shortening these wires for the O2 sensor because they're about that much too long. I was hoping I could just repin it, but despite all of these styles, there isn't one that looks like this. I'm just gonna have to splice it with, splices instead of repinning it, I think. The O2 sensor is working and giving a sensible reading. That's a good sign. This morning I was cleaning up this turbo because it's been in the other shop for years and it's all dusty. This will get you a little bit excited for the sounds this thing will make someday.
Why does it sound so jetted to me?
Because this is hitting the concentrated air is hitting the blades.
Yeah.
It's not that much flow. Like the CFM of this versus an engine is incredibly low.
Yeah.
But the pressure of this versus an engine is very high. The velocity of this air is extremely high, so it's just...
What is that turbo?
My old Subaru.
Oh, no.
It's actually probably pretty close to the right size for that engine.
If you guys have seen our mini excavator challenge video, the video where we take the bus to the top of Ethan's mountain, and pretty much all the fabrication videos, you've seen us wearing Brunt boots for over 2 years now. They last a long time, they're comfortable, they come in at very reasonable prices. These are the Marins. They're my favorite boots by Brunt so far, and I could not recommend them enough. And Brunt offers a trial, so you can wear these boots on the job, and if you don't like them, you can send it back. So there's really no reason not to try Brunt, especially if you use our code GRINDHARD and get $10 off your first order. So go to bruntworkwear.com/grindhard and use code GRINDHARD to get $10 off your first order. I think you're going to love these boots.
Well, would you look at that? Our new tires and wheels for the Colonel showed up. I ordered up these wheels, which are pretty much identical to the ones that are currently on the Colonel, except they have a nice silver color to match its frame. If you find yourself needing some golf cart sized tires, check out golfcarttiresupply.com. I'm gonna throw them on, and we'll take it for a rip and see how it do with the new tires. I know, it's loud noises and you don't like it. I know. Nice. Since the O2 sensor is now actually functioning and doing its thing, maybe take it for a little test drive. See if it feels any different. It's not like we're gonna get any data, but I'll be able to tell seat of the pants if it feels different. Well, in conclusion, I think it does actually run a little bit better with the O2 sensor plugged in and hooked up. Not a whole lot, but I mean, that's kind of to be expected because we didn't actually change the tune. We just plugged in an O2 sensor. So, and the bog is still there, but it definitely seems to be a little happier than it was. We have the technologies! Back in the shop and hooked up to the computer. I already had wiring set up for this extra map sensor. Time to mess around with some settings. I mean, it's running differently for sure. So that means that it is actually doing something. I don't really know what I'm doing here, but it's kind of fun messing around. I don't know what I'm doing. So far I've made it worse, but I'm learning things. Oh, I was just tuning here and messing with some stuff, and I was like, oh, what's going on there? It's smoking a little extra. The fuel line sprung a leak and was just pissing onto the exhaust pipe. Oh. Very good. Nothing to do with what I was doing, just by chance that happened. I'm gonna replace the little dinky cartridge filter in the system with this big old chunky 10 micron fancy schmancy fuel filter. And then I'm gonna take out the injectors, clean them, just kind of go through the whole system and make sure we don't have any issues before I start trying to tune it. Because if we're tuning it with like a plugged injector, it'd be really silly. You'd just be tuning around a problem that you can't get around. This is the fuel pressure gauge. I decided to keep it keep it installed this time. Dang.
You don't even need to make a bracket for
No bracket or nothing. I was trying to figure out how to connect the fuel pump or fuel filter to the fuel pressure regulator in the most space efficient way possible. And I was gonna make an adapter with like 2 female pieces of AN fitting, and originally I was gonna tap them, but that didn't work, so I was gonna weld them together. And then I was like, you know what, let me look at this again. And I realized this thread on the AN is the same as that thread. Yeah. So like I can just rotate the clamp around and then they'll sit flat. Fuel in, filter, pressure regulator, fuel to the engine, return line, gauge. Bark, bark! On today's episode of Ethan is a Hoarder, I'm getting ready to do the old North Idaho dyno where I hook this thing to a tree and just do a mad burnout until I get it tuned right. And obviously I don't want to wreck on brand new tires. So I have the original tires that this parts quad came with when we bought it to build this like 5 years ago. Run them till they blow. Yesterday I was just kind of like guessing and messing around with the software to kind of just learn what things did and just see what I could do. And this morning I did a bunch of reading. So now I actually loosely know what I'm doing with the software. So the flow rate was I think 280 cc's a minute. And what I could find on the internet said 380. I started that and I've been fiddling around and trying to get it to idle better and get the air-fuel ratios a little closer. So now I'm going to do that under load to tell me a little bit more about the fuel flow rate. So get my rope hooked up and then do some dyno tuning. My rope here isn't quite long enough to reach the tree, and there's things I could do about that, but the easiest of the things is to just hop in this and use the winch. Park it right at the bottom of the hill. Last time I used this winch, it stopped working, so hopefully this is about the right length. Actually, quite close. All right, I'll drive the K-truck forward a couple feet and you can hook that on.
Yep, sounds good. Wow, that thing's loud.
I know, I found these just in the nick of time.
I'm sure my neighbors love me today.
Today and yesterday are not the best day to be Ethan's neighbor.
Not really, no. So I'm sure your untrained eye could tell the massive difference that those changes made.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
First time I could barely even do a burnout once the tires got warmed. And then by the last one, it was like a full throttle, high RPM burnout. All I was changing is the fuel injector flow rate. I went down from 400, where I started at, down to 350. And what I was watching is the wideband O2 sensor number here. We're looking for like 14.6, 14.8 air-fuel ratio. So that means 14 parts of air for 1 part fuel. When I'm seeing numbers on the wideband like 15, 17, that's like your engine's gonna melt if you keep running it. Like air-fuel ratios. 14.7, it's called stoichiometric. I have no idea what that actually means as a word, but that's the optimal air-fuel ratio for complete combustion so that all of your air and fuel burn up. Those changes I made worked quite well and we're much closer to the right flow rate for the injectors now. I may have burned up the clutch, which, to be fair, hasn't been the same since the Power Wheels Overland trip, so it was due for a new one anyway. I think there's just enough clutch left for a little bit of a test drive. I just wanted to get it close and also just exercise my newfound understanding of the software and tuning in general so that I could just like prove that my ideas worked, basically. So we've proven that I can burn out the clutch and make it worse. I ordered up some stuff to just make a cam sensor because I think that trying to chase performance without having the proper sensors is a really silly idea. In the meantime, I'll fix some other stuff like the rear brake and the wheel bearings and all of that, and she'll be ripping properly in no time. So I've decided to take my own advice here, and before I start putting this wiring harness back together, I'm going to add in the wiring for this here boost control solenoid for when we turbulate. I don't have to mount the solenoid yet. This is gonna be high tech. An electronic boost controller? Man.
That's fancy.
Very fancy. Got everything else tidied up. Got the external map sensor mounted right here with just a zip tie because why not? I had to do a little bit of switching around of units in the Haltech software here. We've got PSI, which is what my brain understands. We've got KPA, that's kilopascals, and then there's absolute KPA. So I had to change the scale to absolute KPA, which means that the scale goes from 0 to, well, whatever your highest pressure setting is, but it starts at 0 being no total vacuum instead of 0 being any pressure gauge would read 0, even though technically speaking there's 14 point something psi of air pressure because we're in an atmosphere. Let's see if it runs. Oh, not in here it won't. Yeah, well that's cool. I mean, I wouldn't say it idles great, but I also need to plug off that intake port because I forgot that I had that. It's running about as well as it has been since I started tuning it, and better than most of the time that I've been tuning it, so we'll call that good on the tuning right now because I can't really get any farther until I have all the right sensors, so, but I calibrated that MAF sensor close enough for it to run relatively well, which is cool. The reason the rear brakes on the Colonel haven't worked for years is because when I built it, I decided to go hydraulic, even though they were originally cable actuated. I don't really know why I did that. I thought it would be cool, I guess. But it was just an unnecessarily complicated system when a cable does the trick. So I'm converting it back to cables. Here's the funny part. I built this thing, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And not only did I still have this part, but I knew where it was. And that's the part that goes in here.
I can't believe you knew where that was, including moving garages. You built that in the old garage.
Yeah, many years ago. I just modified it a little bit to fit this style of cable, so I cut a slot in it, and then that just notches into there. Then once it's inside of that sleeve, it can't come out. I've got my little tab designed up here. And down in here, if you can see it, I have this long nut with a slice in it so that the cable can go through, and the little adjuster here. So the tab's gonna go from this side straight to this piece of the frame here. And it should be pretty close to linear with the way it's actually gonna pull. So hopefully it won't need any sort of bracing. It should just be strong enough. Now I got the brake working, I'm gonna go ahead and build a new muffler for this. I know I'm planning on turboing it, but in the interest of getting it tuned correctly first, and also in the interest of the fact that there's a very real chance that the turbo system never really works properly, I don't want to cut up this exhaust, and I want it to have a muffler for tuning purposes, and, you know, have that as an option to go back to, so it won't take me long at all to make a new muffler, so I'll just do that. Man, we've been calling this thing the Colonel for so long, it's easy to forget that it was originally a Jeep Hurricane, and we kind of called it that for a while. And then eventually somebody, it might have been a subscriber, came up with the name Colonel Senders, because before that we had Senderella. But it's been so long that now it's just the Colonel, or as people who don't really pay attention call it, the General. I have my muffler baffling. It doesn't do anything for baffling when there's no fiberglass around it, but I actually happen to have laying around here, right here, some more fiberglass packing. I somehow managed to save the rear tip of the muffler that broke off, which is great, because then I have the front and the rear. All I have to do is make a new can and try to weld it a little better this time so it doesn't break again. Binoculars. Got the baffle tubes welded on there, and I have a measurement. Now it's time to cut a chunk of stainless steel. Oh, I'd say that was a pretty good approximation of the bends. I realized that this flange around the front was all cracked on the sides, so I'm just gonna break it all the way off and make a new one. And then I'm also gonna move it back. If you see, this flange is probably 1/2 inch forward of the seam here between solid pipe and perforated pipe. So I don't want it like right at the seam, but I'll move it back like to just before the seam. Yeah. It's a little small. I think I actually just need to trim a little bit off of this top piece, this piece here, because I did intentionally leave myself like 1/8 of an inch of extra. If I were to push this in to where it really should be, then that's plenty close enough. ¿Dónde están mis zapatos? Yes, I know what that word means. And it does not mean gloves!
You've always spoken better Spanish than the rest of us.
Well, I lived in Costa Rica for 9 months.
I lived in Nicaragua for 4 months and I know gracias.
Yeah, but you were also at a hostel filled with tourists. I was on a vanilla farm. The muffler packing is kind of going to be pieced together. I've had an idea to help hold it in place and just generally make it be a little bit nicer in here, and also add a little extra. I'm going to use heat wrap, because I have a bunch of this, as like outer layer to the muffler packing. Keep it snug while I slide the can over it. There's a couple spots right here and right there that aren't welded yet, but I'm impatient and want to hear what it sounds like. Let's find out. Oh man, that sounds so much better. Yeah, it's not ear splitting now. It's still very loud, but like, won't actually break your eardrums. Hello, hi. Hi, are you a good boy? Yeah. I'm waiting for all the parts I ordered to show up, and while I'm waiting, I'm gonna go ahead and try to figure out where all this oil leakage is coming from. I'm gonna start with just removing the oil tank here, made out of a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign.
We really need to get more signs from the scrapyard.
Yeah, I should actually just look next. I was just there the other day. I forgot to look and see if they had any. Mmm, delicious. Oh, the back side of the oil tank too. Mmm, yum. I found the culprit of most of the oil leakage, and that is where these oil lines go into the back side of the engine there. All of the bolts were loose, and you can see right there that O-ring is almost split in half. That's a little bit cleaner, eh?
A lot cleaner.
Yeah, and I took these fittings out and put new O-rings on them. I actually put double O-rings on them this time. I don't think I had replaced the O-rings last time. They looked very crusty. And yes, I am putting double clamps on this section because it's going onto a piece of hardline that doesn't have a flare at the end or a bead or anything. So it's just kind of a little extra insurance, if you will. And we got well, not all of the parts that I ordered, but many of them. Enough to keep me busy for the day, that's for sure. We got new wheel bearings all the way around. We got V-band clamps for the exhaust, and most importantly, map sensor that has actual calibration data for the Haltech. I ordered 3 of these just kind of to have some extras on hand. I'm gonna go ahead and replace this 3-bolt flange that I built, just because it's kind of a pain, and the gasket that I had in there is kind of gone. Somebody asked in a recent video what this is. It's just an old belt from the belt grinder, just a 220 grit belt, and it just turns itself into a little rope, which is really handy for sanding tubes. Places you can't even walk. Got that V-band all welded up. Now I'm gonna chop up this section so I can make it clear the drive shaft there a little better. And I've looked at it for a bit, and I think the best course of action is gonna be to cut it off at this seam and all the way back to this seam under here, because that way I can angle it out a little bit more, and I can put in a V-band somewhere in here so that this section can be removed as well. And then it'll have a little more clearance for the steering shaft as well, because that, you can see, has rubbed on it over time when it flexes and stuff.
Seems like a good spot for that man.
Yeah, and then this piece I'll just shorten it by the thickness of the V-bands, and then it'll all fit together the same way. So, should work out. Well, I was welding away on that, and I have runneth out of argon. All of the gases are gone. We normally have a spare bottle, and due to some oversight on my part, they're both empty. That's all at least half welded, or well, not half, but partially welded, so it's all, gonna stay its shape. I think it's safe to say this wheel bearing is toasty. Ha! Look at this. Wheel bearing? Crunch, 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 crunch. Ball joint. Both crispy.
That just shows you how hard you've gone with this machine.
Yeah, just a bit. Picked up more gas, and now I'm finishing up the welds on this. And yes, it's removable, but to remove it, I have to take out the transfer case and drive shaft, so I'm just gonna weld it in place, which is very tedious. Oh! I'm blind. All the stuff in between me and the weld that keeps blocking the sensor, it's being a real pain in my eyes. Got a brand new clutch kit I'll put in a minute, but before that, go ahead and wrap these headers, which, now that it's a 3-piece exhaust, is much easier. You'll notice I actually put on gloves this time. This stuff is made out of some type of fiberglass, so as you can imagine, it's a little itchy. Gotta love the look of a freshly wrapped header. My fingers are slightly exhausted, but that's a wrap. I wasn't even hanging out with Mark, and I'm starting to do all the puns.
It really wears off on you.
It really does. I've always been a connoisseur of puns.
Yeah, come on in, Bjorn. You come in too.
That looks rather worn out. Got the clutch all back together, so that should be good to go. And now we have our itty bitty little cam sensor. It's just a universal Hall effect sensor. Hall effect, whatever. Effect sensor thing, trigger. And it works by just anything metallic or magnetic passing by it. So it actually is a magnet in there. And so when something passes by it, it triggers it, creates a signal. So what I'm gonna do here, I have this valve cover off. I cut off the head of a bolt. I'm gonna weld it right about there on the cam. And I have the engine set to, or the engine is at top dead center, and this is cylinder number 1, just so that we know. I mean, it shouldn't really matter. We should be able to tell the software whatever we needed to know about the positioning of this. But anyway, so I'm just gonna tack that right onto that cam, and then all I have to do is drill a hole in this here valve cover, and we'll have a cam sensor.
Yeah, it is a unique situation to have to weld on a cam, that's for sure.
Yeah, never welded anything to a cam.
It's probably pretty hard to clean too, right? Just covered in oil.
It's not too bad. I mean, I just wiped it down with some brake clean. It's just gotta stay on there while the engine's spinning around, so that'll probably about do the trick. Time to just drill a hole in this. I would use like the mill or something, but I don't think it really matters. It's so thin, it's magnesium, it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. So, good old step drill. The good news is, if I mess up these cams with welding onto them, it's a good excuse to put Super Duke cams in it, because apparently the KTM 990 Adventure and the 990 Super Duke had different cams, and the Super Duke ones are better. I've got the hole drilled in it, but I gotta do some fine tuning to get it to sit flat. Got the cam sensor installed here. I've got an O-ring on the outside, and I put a little bit of gasket sealer on the inside to hopefully keep the oil in. I've got some heat shrink on here, wires trimmed down to where I want them. And I ordered up a set of connectors, because I'm tired of just like trying to repurpose old connectors or just hardwiring things or whatever. So I got that. Now I just have to put a plug on one end, on the end of this, plug on the end of this, and then we'll have a cam sensor. Welcome to spring in North Idaho. It's June, what, 4th today?
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm lighting a fire.
It's cold.
It's not like cold, but it would be more comfortable with fire. This hub is worn out inside. Really only one way to fix that if I wanted to, which would be to like clean it up, weld a bunch on the inside, and then re-machine it. But it's kind of a hard shape to put in the lathe. It'd be doable, but not easy. Or I have this spare hub that is less reinforced. But seeing as how we're never putting tracks on this thing again, I don't need that level of reinforcement. And I have this one that's partially reinforced. Just the little, steering tab there. Yeah, that feels like it's a little bit tighter in there than the other one. The other one just kind of went blink and slipped right in. I don't know why I didn't think to check this before, and maybe I would have just noticed working on it, but I just realized that there was a 50-50 chance this one was the wrong side. I only have one spare. And it is the right side, but I didn't think to check until after. On to the cam sensor. Threw a little bit of oil in there, so we'll start it up and see what happens with the actual cam sensor. Smoothest idle I've heard from that thing since I've been tuning it. And before, it would kind of jump all over the place. It'd be like partial, full, running, stops, just like all over the place, because it didn't actually have a cam sensor that was functional. So it was just kind of guessing off of the crank and then coming up with all sorts of silly stuff because it didn't actually have one. making progress with science and stuff. I got it running fairly decent with my, North Idaho dynoing and just my very amateur tuning. Right now it runs pretty good when it's cold, and then when it gets hot, it doesn't run right at all. So, I mean, I could probably fix that part of the tuning a little bit, but again, I'm no expert, so we're gonna try to find somebody who is and get some dyno time so that we can properly tune it.